What's up, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to talk about what the news is saying about Tesla and what's happening with the economic calendar. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just about 2.5 weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. Overall, Tesla's looking very, very strong. It's making higher highs and higher lows. And this thing's continuing to break out very, very nicely. Now, we managed to break past the $300 area as if it was nothing, which just goes to show how strong Tesla is. We also had some tough resistance at the 310 area. We managed to break past that as well. So we're just breaking past these resistance areas like there's no tomorrow. And we're at the highest level we've been at since like early 2022. So now Tesla's hitting these highs. It's very, very strong. But the question now remains, will this momentum continue going into next week? And I want to give you guys more insights about that. Let's first talk about some news and different things like that. There's also something else I wanted to say actually involving this channel. So I grew this channel by primarily talking about Tesla. And then what happened was Tesla went through a very quiet period. We saw the share price tank. We saw not really much news come out that was too significant. And things became very quiet. So I started to talk a lot more about other tickers. I was talking about like SPY, the QQQ, and the others. But now, ever since I would say Tesla's robotaxi event, ever since the latest earnings, things are back with Tesla. So the news is becoming a lot more profound. So I just want to make it very clear that I'm going to go back to the way things were, where I'm going to be talking a lot more about Tesla specifically and Tesla news. I might spend a little bit less time talking about SPY, the QQQ, and the others, but I'll still do it just for the sake of my viewers who have requested for me to do that. So that's how the new format's going to be for this channel. I will talk mainly about Tesla and Tesla news, and I will still talk about others just to give you guys more technical updates. I'm going to have another YouTube channel where I just talk about all the different tickers. I'll go into a lot more detail about more of them. I'll share that maybe tomorrow. So I just want to make that very clear. There's going to be a little bit of a shift I want to do because Tesla news and Tesla's price performance is becoming so much more impactful. There's a lot more eyes on it. So I want to focus primarily on that. So Tesla's bullish, making higher highs and higher lows. We'll see how things go going into next week. I will talk about the share price in just a few minutes. Just know this: Tesla has hit a $1 trillion market cap ever since we got that victory by President Trump. I bring this up because there was a lot of news that came out on Friday about Elon Musk being on a call with Zelensky and Trump, and his overall views on politics now have an influence over the president. He's able to just talk to the president, negotiate with him, and that's what's really helping the share price continue to push. So that's why Tesla's very excited about this position. It has this edge it has over politics. It's surpassed the $1 trillion market cap, which is something we predicted in one of my earlier videos. Tesla's still very, very bullish nonetheless. There was some negative news that came out over the weekend, though, about how the NHTSA is coming out and they're saying that Tesla's social media posts are falsely implying that its cars are robotaxis and this and that. Well, honestly, guys, I'm going to say this. It's a matter of interpretation. Tesla is not telling us that. And from what I've seen, they're not saying that their cars are just fully autonomous. They work perfectly. But there were many times where they showed some posts from a whole Mars catalog that shows that Tesla has like made very successful trips from one city to another near like the Palo Alto area in California. Right? They've showed very, very successful modes, and it just goes to show that, yes, there's a lot of work and progress that's being made to FSD. But here's the thing you have to remember. As awesome as FSD is, and as much as people may interpret that Tesla's saying that their cars are perfect, I don't believe that that's actually what's going on. I think that it's very important to remember that the FSD technology is not fully autonomous. It's not perfectly there yet. I think that there's still improvements to be made. That's why if anyone ever is driving their Tesla and they use FSD, you have to pay attention in case something goes wrong because it's still a work in progress. Now, some people may interpret the post that Tesla is showing on their Twitter page as them implying that, oh, they're fully autonomous, this and that. It's possible. Actually, it is a possibility people may interpret that. That's why it's important Tesla's very careful with how they word things and they make it very, very evident that's not perfect. I believe that the majority of people out there do know that. They know that, Teslas aren't perfect when it comes to autonomous technology. We're not there yet when it comes to FSD. But if there are a few people out there who are kind of like misled, I think that that is something Tesla could improve on. They could tell us that there's a lot of progress being made, but it's not perfect yet, and to once again set reminders for people to just always pay attention. But honestly, guys, and I think it's very important to note that I think that Tesla's very clear on that. They've already said it before. They're planning on launching a robotaxi. They're not saying the robotaxis are here yet. So that's the thing is like Tesla, they may have not been doing this wrong at all. It could just be an interpretation that is off, and that happens all the time. So could they improve at the way they kind of present their technology? Sure, you could argue that, but at the same time, I still think that I from what I've seen that Tesla has made it very clear to people like me that they're not there yet. There's still a lot of work to be made. So the NHTSA is always on Tesla's neck. It could just be that they're trying to do this for the safety of the people. So that could be also what's going on. I'm just here to say that Tesla has to, they're doing a great job at presenting FSD, but if they could make things a little bit more clear, sure, like there's nothing wrong with saying that. So that's what I'm going to basically say. But that's something I just want to call out. It's not the end of the world, though. Nothing too crazy. Hopefully, Tesla looks at these headlines and they make some improvements just to be safe. Try to make things a little bit safer. Volume is at 204 million. It's still very, very high for Tesla, so it's not bad whatsoever. And then Bank of America Securities is giving Tesla a buy rating. Piper Sandler is also giving them an overweight rating. And then the price price ratio is going up because Tesla is showing a lot of strength compared to the market. Mondays are historically green about 52% of the time, almost 53% of the time. And we tend to see more volatility at 11 o'clock a.m. and also at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So keep that in mind. But here's something about Tesla for tomorrow, okay? For tomorrow, it's going to be November 11th. It's going to be Veterans Day. And what tends to happen on federal holidays is there tends to be a little bit less volume as a lot of people are going to be on vacation, taking some time off work and maybe spending time away from the markets. And then the bonds market is going to be closed tomorrow. That's why we don't really have any economic data coming out. The bonds market will be closed. Only the New York Stock Exchange will be open. So, yes, Tesla, the market's going to be trading tomorrow, but the bonds market will be closed. And we're going to be looking for the federal holiday that could slow down our volatility. So, I think that there's going to be less volume coming to the markets tomorrow, and that could have an effect on Tesla. For the whole market, just know this as days go on, Wednesday has CPI coming out, Thursday has PPI and Jerome Powell giving a speech, and then Friday has manufacturing numbers. So the data gets very serious starting on Wednesday, so just keep that in mind. Today is quiet, but Wednesday is when things get more serious. Also, the overall market has a lot of greed. If we do get some kind of pullback or dip, there's still going to be buyers that defend it. Momentum is extremely greedy as there's still a lot of buyers stepping in, but just know the S&P 500 is approaching a psychological 6,000 area. We'll have to see if it holds. There's a lot of shorting going on approaching the election. Now a lot of shorts are being closed. These institutions are hedging, going long, which is pushing the market higher. And volatility remains neutral, but I do want to call out that the VIX is approaching support. So we'll have to see if the VIX bounces or not between 14 and 15. Last thing I'll talk about before I talk about the charts for Tesla and others is this. We have Monday.com announcing earnings tomorrow. No surprise, it's on a Monday. For Tuesday, we have Shopify, the Home Depot, and a bunch of retail. For Wednesday, we have Cisco. For Thursday, we have Disney in the morning, not to mention JD.com and more retail. And then Friday, we have Alibaba affecting Chinese tickers. So that being said, guys, that's enough about what's happening with our data. Let's focus now on the charts. Tesla's bullish. If we manage to hold above 325, we're looking for 330 as our target, which is very close to where we got stopped at on Friday. Break 330, I think we go up to 335, then 340 as our potential targets. If we end up losing, hypothetically, if we end up losing 315, if Tesla starts dipping below that, I think we test 310, then potentially back down to about 300, which is where we have an imbalance, not only that, and also previous resistance becoming support. So look for 315 is the main support. If we lose that, we go back down for 310 and then 300 if that fails us. If we're bullish, you want to break past 330. If that breaks, we go all the way up to 335 or above. So keep those levels in mind. As of right now, the share price is bullish. It's making higher highs and higher lows, and there's no sign of a rejection. So I wouldn't be surprised if we try to push in the morning because historically Tesla is known for pushing in the mornings. If you look at the last 4 days, every morning we do try to push. So I think we're going to try to push towards 330 tomorrow morning, maybe a little bit above that. And then as the day goes on, I think that volume might slow down for the markets and Tesla might slow back down to the 320s and see some consolidation very close to where we are and end up closing kind of flat. I find that to be the most likely move for Tesla. There's a lot of momentum that's going to push it higher, but as the day goes on, we might slow down because of the fact that volume is slowing and because the overall market may also slow down. I think that that's the most likely case because Tesla may be dictated by the market as well to some extent. Because when you look at SPY, we're approaching the psychological 600 area. Break 600, we're looking for 602.5, then 605. And if we end up losing 597.5 on SPY. We're looking for the 596.5 area, then the 595 is coming next. I presume the most likely case is that SPY is going to try to push for 600. We'll have to see if it breaks that or not. If not, we could be dipping back down. And I think that's the most likely case. We kind of push for 600 and start dipping. We might be looking for a dip for 595. I think that's most likely what's going to come, depending on if we break 600 or not. So make sure you watch 600 to see if we break it. We might touch it and then start dipping back down to 595 for a small pullback because of the fact that we have Veterans Day and a bit of a holiday, which tends to have less volume. Now, we could dip a little bit to 595 if not lower before we try to bounce again. So just keep that in mind. It might be a small dip than a bounce. If the 595 area fails, still 592 is coming next. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think at least 595 could come or below before it tries to bounce. And I say the market may bounce again because we still have buyers defending it. For ES, I do anticipate a small dip to about 6,000. 6,000 is a very psychological level. If we hold above 6,000, look for 6,030 as resistance and 6,050. If we lose 6,000, we're looking for 5980 as our support, not to mention 5950. I think that we might actually dip a little bit closer to 6,000. We'll see if we get a bounce or not. If not, we could be dipping back down to 5980 before it tries to bounce again. So look for a dip to 6,000, a little rebound and a continuation lower to 5980 is the most likely case. Then we could try to bounce off that as time goes on. There might be a slight slowdown because of the fact that there's less volume, but we'll see how things end up going. Another sign is the fact that Nvidia is slowing down right here. Notice that we hit 150 and we start to dip. We could attempt to rebound to make a lower high around 148. If we break 150, we turn more bullish. 152 is coming. If we can't reclaim 150, there's going to be a lower high to be made and a dip to potentially 146.5 to eventually 145. So I think that we might rebound a bit, then start dipping back down to 146.5 to eventually 145. And we'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. But overall, there's going to be some signs of weakness that could lead to a little bit of a downside. So look for a pop and a drop back down to 146.5 or below as the most likely cases. We'll see how we end up reacting after that. So give it the time it needs. Overall, we have the 20 EMA doing a good job of trying to push higher. If we lose 80, we're looking for 78,000 as our main support. So if 80,000 fails us, and for above that, we're looking for 82,000. I think Bitcoin's very strong. It's going to help Coinbase push higher. So we're looking for us to get very close to 81,000 tomorrow. And we'll see if 80,000 holds or not. Even if we do get a small dip below 80,000, might try to bounce. I think what's going to happen is we push a bit tomorrow morning. We slow down back down to the 79,000s, consolidate a bit before it tries to break out again and continue to push as we look very bullish. For the Qs, just know that NQ is hitting resistance. Notice how it was very vertical. It was pushing super high, super high, super high, but now it's not pushing super high. It's slowing down. That's the simplest way for me to describe this. The rate at which it's going up is slowing down. So it's slowing down a little bit. Instead of breaking past 21,300, resistance is getting tougher for this. What tends to happen when this happens is we turn over a bit. So for example, like, let me see if I can find an example. Like right over here, we were essentially pushing. We actually started to consolidate just a little bit as momentum started to slow down. And we might be seeing something very similar to that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually dip back down to 21,200, if not below that. And then the 21,150 area could be coming next. So there might be a little bit of a dip back down to the 21,000 before we try to bounce again. So give this the time it needs. For the QQQ, we pushed all the way up to about 515. If that breaks, we're looking for essentially 517.5. If you reject it, we're looking for essentially 512, then all the way back down towards 508. So I think we might push for 515 and start dipping back down to about 512, then eventually the 508 area before it tries to bounce again. There might be a little bit of a dip on the QQQ, so look for a push and then a drop as the most likely cases, in my opinion. For Apple, we're on a bit of a downtrend right over here, but just know this, Apple is trying to recover. So it's bullish. It looks like it's going to try to go up for 230. However, before that happens, it could be forming a cup and handle. So I think Apple's going to be dipping closer to 225.75 as the most likely move before it tries to bounce. Hold above 228, we're bullish. And if we don't hold above 226, we're a little bit more bearish. Might be looking for the 225 area before it tries to bounce again. So keep that in mind. Might be a 2-point dip on Apple. Notice that SPY was hitting 600 psychological resistance. Netflix is also at 800, another psychological resistance. This is basically implying to us that this might slow down a bit depending if we break 800. If 800 breaks, we're looking for 810. If not, we're looking for basically the 780 area. So look for a test of 800 and a dip back down to 780 before it tries to bounce. I think we might be looking for a small dip before it tries to continue, so give this the time it needs. Might be a small dip on Netflix if we can't break past 800 to about 780 before it tries to bounce again. For Celsius or CELH, we are on a bit of a downtrend. It might try to rebound a bit for 30, then it could reject and start tipping lower. Look for a push for 30.07 before it tries to reject as the most likely cases. Then we'll see how it ends up moving. As far as Palantir goes, we remain bullish. We're looking for essentially 60 as our target. If that breaks, we're going a little bit higher. We'll have to see if we hold above 60 or not. So we basically came close to 60, then we could reject and start dipping back down for 56. As of right now, don't worry about that rejection. For now, we're going to be looking for a push to 60. We'll see how it ends up reacting. I think there's an increased probability of us kind of like getting that rejection, but just to be safe, we'll see how things end up going. So overall, guys, I think that we remain more bullish. I think there's a good chance we try to continue to push, and we'll see what ends up happening as time goes on. So keep that in mind, guys. I thank you all for listening, at least from that end. As far as other factors end up going, don't forget about what's happening with Super Micro. Super Micro is kind of forming a nice accumulations, trying to get bought back up around that 20 area. But the issue I see with it is the fact that there's a little bit of weakness building over the fact that there's a downtrend. So as we hit 20, we try to balance, but there is some tough resistance up here. I wouldn't be surprised if we dip a little bit and try to rebound a bit back up to 26.1. We'll see if it rejects or not. But overall, it looks like it's a little bit more range bound. For Rivian is kind of a range bound right here. We're looking at 10.6 as our resistance. If it rejects here, we're looking for 10.27 as our next potential target, and we'll see if we bounce. If it breaks past 10.8, we're looking for a push for 11.23. I think we might be dipping for 10.27 before it tries to bounce, so just keep that in mind for Rivian. That's the most likely case I'm looking at. So if I was looking more bullish, as we're making higher highs and higher lows, going to be looking to see if we break 13. There's a lot of momentum remaining as we're up 10% since Friday. So I think we could be going for 13.5, and we'll see what kind of reaction we end up getting. For the IWM Russell 2000, we're trading sideways right here. We have essentially 238 as our resistance and 235 as our support, going back and forth and back and forth. I think that we just remain range bound for now. We could be looking for a retest of 235 tomorrow. Might push to about just under 240, then come back down as the most likely cases, and we'll see how things end up going from there. But just keep that in mind, guys. That's one of the most important things that I do presume could be coming. So just keep that in mind for the time being. For other factors out there, I just want to call out that we also happen to have AMD. It's dipping a little bit, might be retesting 146 to 145 for a small little dip before it attempts to rebound. So just keep that in mind. It might be a little bit of a dip, and then we'll see what happens at least as time goes on. Might be retesting 146.96 or below before it tries to see some buyers step in. For other factors out there, we also happen to have ARM. ARM may be dipping back down to about the 145 area to 143.72. Look for a small dip here before it tries to bounce. So watch and see how things end up going. Coinbase is going to likely be bullish because of Bitcoin pushing. So I do think it might be testing 275 and 280 is our resistances, and we'll see how it goes from there. But look for a little bit more upside. Amazon might be dipping lower. We're looking at this resistance to watch for at 210 and support at 208, which if we fail, we're looking for basically 205. I think Amazon might dip towards 205, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not, but watch to see what kind of reaction we get. We're going to be looking at that very, very closely. For Meta, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. So we had a high up here. We came down, made a lower high. We could be dipping back down for 585, if not 580, and we'll see if we get a bounce or not. Might be a small dip to 585, if not 580, and we'll see if we end up bouncing or not. But look and see how we end up reacting. So give this the time it needs. For Microsoft, we're on a bit of a downtrend here. We could be essentially approaching 420. That's a psychological level, kind of funny number two. Microsoft might be hitting 420 before it tries to bounce. I think that's the most likely case. Google might be dipping as well. I think that if we can't hold above 180, we might get close to about 178, close to the 20 EMA. Then we'll see if we get a bounce off that or not. So give this the time it needs. GameStop remains bullish. I just want to call out GameStop because a lot of people are watching it right now. This looks like a nice accumulation here, nice little accumulation structure. So as long as we're above 25 tomorrow, we're looking for a target of 26.5, then eventually it could be pushing for the 28. But if we end up losing 23.41, that's the main support, this thing could start dipping. So it looks bullish to me. It looks like it's going to try to push, might dip a little bit before it continues to pump. I think we're going to be looking for this thing to hit the 26 plus area. So we'll see how it goes, but there's potential in this. DJT is going to try to push for most likely 32.79, eventually 34. So I think that we're hitting 32.79 and 34 as our targets, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. But there is most definitely potential in this. On the other hand, the VIX is approaching 14 to 15. So when you look at 14 to 15, right, the VIX has bounced off that many times. Like right here, we had 14 to 15 when we bounced, hit this, bounced, hit this, bounced. that tends to cause bounces when we hit the 14 to 15 area, which could signify the market may dip a little bit, especially as we're approaching Veterans Day when we tend to have less volume. This could be a sign that the VIX is going to try to bounce a little bit. Not a guarantee. It could imply the market may pull back just a little bit before it tries to push higher. Just keep that in mind. The 10 years just dipping a little bit. We'll see if that continues, not really affecting the market as much. This happened because of Jerome Powell. And then the dollar index did the same thing. We're making a lower high relative to this high. It's not really affecting the market as much. It does look like it might try to push higher, which tends to be bearish for the markets. So it might dip a little bit, then try to push. 104.75, then the bounce could be coming. So we'll see how it goes. But, anyways, guys, that's it for my video. As far as the market goes, just know that Tesla remains, you know, as of right now, it remains bullish. So it could try to push a little bit higher. It might push higher close to 330, and we'll see if we get some kind of rejection, a little bit of a dip after that or not. But even if we do get a small dip, Tesla will still get bought back up and it remains very strong, very bullish. And there's no sign of Tesla slowing down from here. So look for a little bit more upside. It might get close to 330, dip a little bit, and then try to bounce throughout the day. Holding up nicely. I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. All right, thank you all so much for listening. So please have a great Sunday. I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens, and peace out.